I want to welcome you once again to this Leadership Blueprint podcast. This is our edition number 8, which is the part 2 of the one we had last month that featured myself, Kunle, and Victor. Today we want to conclude that edition, that episode, which is on democracy and political leadership in Africa. So today I'm going to be having another conversation with my very good friend, Victor Jatula. Like I told us the last time, our friendship is way, way, way back in the 90s, in the mid-90s. And we've maintained that cordial relationship. Today, we are going to have a conversation around democracy, conversation around political leadership. This is the space where Victor expresses himself as a professor. So I'm sure you are going to learn a lot from him. And in the future, we are going to be having many more other episodes that we are going to have together. The idea of this podcast is to provide a blueprint for a societal change, for a cultural transformation across Africa. We're not just looking at just Nigeria as a nation. Of course, we are Nigerians, but our outlook is on the entire continent of Africa, how we can provide a transformation across the continent of Africa. Of course, we are not the only person who will be able to do this. I need you, we need ourselves, we need everyone to be on board, to be able to bring about this neighborhood transformation, like I always say, which is we are going to do it. We are transforming the nation, but it's going to happen one neighborhood at a time. Now, reflecting back on our last episode, I know you've just gone to Nigeria and you just came back from Nigeria. And I know you said something in the last episode. You demonstrated a bit of optimism about the future of democracy in Africa, specifically in Nigeria, and how you hope that although there may still be challenges here and there, but you are very optimistic that the democracy in Africa, still being in its infancy stage, still has a lot of feature. So I just want to ask you, you were just recently in Nigeria. I just want to ask, are you still maintaining that optimism? Because you know, a lot of things are happening. We are hearing the news now. You've gone to see things for yourself.
Yes.
Still hoping that there is still future for Africa.
Yeah, there's still a lot of optimism about the future of Africa. Whether it is democracy that will take us to the promised land, or another system of government, or a repurposed democracy, or a change in the political system. But there's always hope at the end of the tunnel. There's always light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm sure Africa will not be an exception. Asia is a model continent today. They have the likes of Japan, China, South Korea, and the Asian tigers in Southeast Asia. But they've had their own long period of poverty, of deprivation, of lack. However, I think it's part of our human nature to not give up under pressure, to remain resilient until we get to the promised land. And I'm still hopeful that Africa will experience it. I was in Nigeria recently, like you rightly said, and to some level, I was disappointed about several things. The state of infrastructure, the roads are very bad. Electricity is a little bit better, but quite expensive.
mm,
Um, without the private sector, I'm sure that system would totally collapse.
mm,
However, like we know, it's the private sector that drives the economy,
mm,
more so in the African context. In the absence of government, the private sector often steps up. Even in the West, private entrepreneurship, private businesses. So that's one glimmer of hope for me that civil society, the private sector will still function and they will still deliver. So yeah, a lot still to do, but yeah, there's hope. There's hope.
Thank you very much. Like you said, personally, I've always believed that there is future for Africa, and the only reason why we can be doing what we are doing now is because we believe in that future. And I can say that even though there is future for Africa, but it's not going to happen just because we're optimistic.
Yes,
You know, we have to be intentional about it. We have to keep doing this kind of exercise that we are doing. From people needs to get into the public space and provide direction and provide a roadmap, a blueprint, like we are doing a leadership blueprint.
absolutely.
Who knows, somebody somewhere, a savior maybe, lurking somewhere who is going to benefit from this podcast. And it might be this podcast that will be an inspiration to that person.
Absolutely.
And that person may eventually become the savior that we have been looking for. Now, I know you must have heard about this comedian called Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah.
He's a very funny comedian. I remember when I was much younger, I was always amazed the way he does his own comedy. It's always, you can't stop laughing. And another, people knows him to be a comedian, but very few people don't know that he's also highly intellectual in the way he looks at the world around him, in the way he speaks to global issues. Is highly intellectual in his approach when it comes to lending voice to what is happening in the society. He made a very profound statement. He said, you need power only when to get, you need power only when you want to do something harmful. Otherwise, love is enough to get everything done. Now, if you look at that quote, that's very powerful.
Very profound.
Although in some instances, you will still need some power to be able to do certain things. But I think we understand what he's trying to imply there, that you don't need all these autocratic approach, this bossy approach to leading people to really get things done. With love, like the scripture says, love covers the multitude of sin. So with love, there is absolutely nothing you cannot, there is no barrier that you cannot break. Now, my question now is this. When I was looking at the problems of Africa, initially I didn't realize this on time. I just thought maybe the problems are just too numerous. But over time, as I began to articulate my thoughts, bringing the problems in Africa together, and I think I wrote an article sometimes ago, almost about 5 or 6 years ago, which I titled The 21 Problems of Africa. And after I wrote that article, somebody challenged me on LinkedIn. He said, it is easy to point out the problem, but what is the solution? What solution do you have to address some of these problems? And that is what has led me into what I'm doing today. Now, the question I want to ask is, in my own research, I discovered that the main problem of Africa, there are numerous problems, no doubt about that, but we can bring all the problems of Africa under just one thesis, and that is the leadership problem. And I just want to ask you, do you agree that leadership is actually the main problem of Africa? And if you agree or you don't agree, depending on which side of the divide you belong, what do you think? How do you think we should fix or address the leadership problem in Africa?
That's a very philosophical question. And it's very difficult not to agree with it. The leadership question is very, very central to development. If you look at world history and the history of development across the world, nations, economies, corporations, and families are built by leadership. It takes a leader in the family to change the trajectory of that family from poverty to prosperity. It takes leadership to run a successful business. In the same way, it takes leadership to run a successful company, successful country. Even continents that are doing well, like Europe, they come under the umbrella of the EU to make decisions that affect over 600 million people. Some decisions may be difficult to make at the country level, but when they get to the EU level, it's easier because they're not looking at particular circumstances or the peculiarities of the country. They're looking at the continent. But the point is made that it takes plenty of leadership to change anything, especially when we're talking about African continent and development. However, it takes more than leadership. Development takes more than leadership. There's so many studies that establishes that. The place of civil society or the followers is as important as the role of leaders, because leaders don't come out from a vacuum. Leaders emerge from a society. And it's often the case that the leaders that emerge from a society are not often better than the society that they come from.
They are products of the society itself.
They are products of the society. I'll give an example. Somebody told me this story that a few houses down their space, or their neighborhood, back in the 70s and the 80s, I think in the 80s, one custom officer was made the Controller General of Nigerian Custom. Honest man, disciplined man, straightforward man. But 3 months after I was appointed, he was suddenly removed. Because when he got into office, he stopped corruption, He copped bribery.
Mm.
He did all the right things.
Mm.
But people that were close to him within the leadership of the custom planned a coup against him to the point that 90 days after he got into power or into office, he was suddenly removed. So, that kind of shows us that leaders come from a particular context. While we focus on leadership, we should also kind of be mindful of civil society. I'll give an example also, like look at what's happening in the United States. The current leadership of the United States came to power through the democratic means. But since this government came to power, they've seemed to forget what democracy actually means. Freedom of speech, rule of law, independence of the court system, separation of powers. And what we see continuously in the United States is the concentration of power in a few hands.
Yeah.
So in such situations, you need civil society and informed people that can call leadership to question. An informed society that knows the role of leaders and also are aware of the role of followers, because there can't be passive followers anymore. Good societies, developed societies have active leaders and active followers because absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think the space you occupy and your focus on leadership is not just about those who hold political power.
Yeah.
Leadership is not something that is only entrusted to a person by title.
Yeah.
Leadership is a mindset.
It's mindset.
You don't have to be the CEO of an organization to be a leader.
Yeah.
You can be the least paid person in the place and have leadership mindset. By that, you take responsibility.
Yeah.
A leader is future thinking.
Yeah.
A leader is engaged, is involved, is thinking of the collective. But in Africa today, we have people who occupy that position who don't have the quality. They are leaders by name, but leaders by title, but they are not leaders by mindset. They want to take. They are there to
have as much as you can.
Protect their own personal interests. They're not thinking of the collective. You know, that's why I said at the start that Africa is going to get there. But what would take us there may not be called democracy. Or it may be called
or a remodified,
repurposed democracy.
Yeah.
Because in its current form, what we are practicing is what we've been given. And what we've been given may not fully serve our purpose.
Yeah, it has not been fully adapted to fit into our worldview,
our cultural, ethnic, religious diversity.
I agree with you.
So democracy, or whatever it's going to be called in the future, is still work in progress, and we're still finding ways to remodel it and repurpose it. And we need to take ownership of it so that it can become what we want it to be.
Maybe through this podcast, we might also champion that crafting of that proposed democracy. We don't know if it is going to be called democracy, but definitely we have to do something that will be distinct, and unique, that will resonate with who we are as Africans.
Yes, that will serve our purpose. That will meet our needs.
Yeah.
The focus is heavily on politics.
Yeah.
Not on the people.
On electioneering.
Yeah, it's on elections, but not on the people.
Yeah.
Although they call democracy government of the people, for the people, and by the people, what we see is government of the few, for the few, by the few. So in the West, they judge you as a politician based on how well you've served the people. I remember when Obama came into power, he was a young, handsome guy.
Yeah.
Before he left office, he had become old, gray hair everywhere because of the amount of responsibility and work.
Exactly.
But in the African context, you come in old and rickety, like Buhari. By the time you are leaving, you're a young boy.
Exactly. The man was looking pressure.
And
Oh
the
my
reason is
God.
because some people go there to work,
Exactly. Some
other people
people
go
go,
there to
they
rest.
go to collect pension. Oh my God.
So yeah, that leadership is not the position, is the mindset.
Now, I want to ask because your arguments leads me to what the philosophers have been battling for years, which I don't think anybody has been able to find an answer to, which is the philosophical question of which one comes first. Is it the chick or the eggs?
Wow.
Which one comes first? Which was it, the egg that gave birth to the chick, or was it the chicken that gave birth to the egg? Which one comes first? And we're
It's
talking about leadership and the followership.
it's
Which
it's
one
complicated.
should shape the other? Is it the followership that should shape leadership, or leadership to shape followership?
It's complicated because in every society, no matter how educated, how civilized, how developed, industrialized they are,
Mm,
there will still be some few that are gifted in
mm,
statesmanship. They will still have their intelligentsia.
mm.
They will still have this crop of people
They're not
that,
coming to the philosophy of Plato, Socrates, and Aristotle.
yeah, so it will be inaccurate to think that everybody in society are the same,
Mm,
have the same leverage, the same intelligence, the same
mm,
expertise.
mm,
I think one of the things I've noticed in the West is that one-on-one, we're all the same, black or white.
mm,
But in Western societies, and this is the beauty of democracy,
mm,
they allow those who can do it to do it.
mm,
And that makes a big difference in their societies. In Africa, it's not often the case.
mm.
It's either you are too young, too poor, you are not Yoruba, or you're not Hausa, you're not religious,
Something
you're
else
not
to work
Muslim or
against you.
Christian,
Yeah,
you're not, they use a lot of ageism, they do a lot of sexism, you're a man, the place of a woman is in the kitchen, even if the woman has a better idea.
yeah.
Yeah, so those are the things that I think hold us back. So back to your question, in every society, some few people have better ideas.
Mm,
And when they're allowed to lead, they are able to lift a lot of people out of poverty,
mm,
out of depression.
mm,
The place of the collective, the place of the followers, is for them to know enough
mm,
to make collective decisions,
mm,
especially to decide on who do we allow to lead us.
mm,
Because even back in Greece, when democracy started, people knew enough to appoint a few people to lead the rest.
mm,
So I would still say that leadership is about maybe 70%
mm.
or 65%. I'm just taking the number from nowhere.
I know.
Yeah, maybe 30, 35% civil education, civil engagement, public understanding, public interest in the truth. So yeah, leaders are still very important. But like I said, leadership is often not a position.
Mm,
Leadership is a mindset.
mm,
And when those who have that right mindset are allowed to occupy the position,
mm,
it is solution meets a problem that translates to development. However, Africa has not had that opportunity. And it's very complicated. It's very, very complicated. Sometimes I'm sympathetic of the quality of African leaders. I sympathize with them because they're in a very difficult space. Many of them, before they come into power, they don't know the true states of the state, the finances of the state. Before they get into power, they have an illusion of what the resources is, and the wealth is, and then the power of the nation is. But when they get into power, they are contending with many things. Number one, they are contending with opposition party. They are contending with the media that doesn't like them. But much more importantly, they are contending with economic forces. Some within the nation. Much more powerful is forces from outside the nation. Like in the Nigerian example, by the time we became independent in 1960, our economic system has been solidified. Our banking system was in Western hands. Our transport system was in Western hands. Our industries and the technology that powered them was in Western hands. Our textile industry was, all we had control over was agriculture. Even the oil and gas was run by Western companies and still run by Western companies. NNPC is just a rent collector. This is the land, take whatever you want to take, we take from what you take. And many times it's not transparent. So for a government to come into power, to change that economic structure, in fact, when they gave us independence, like they did across Africa, it was just political independence. We didn't have much economic say. So you come in as a president and you see the systems in place, it's difficult. That's why most African companies, especially trying to compete, they don't survive. We tried Nigerian Airways. Can you imagine all the Africans traveling from Africa to Europe and back from Europe to Africa to the United States? They're all carried, 90% of them fly in Western-owned airlines. You can imagine the millions, billions of resources that's going into BA, Air France, KLM, and all of it. And they don't want any African airline to compete, talk less of overtake. So the same with importation of cars. The whole continent, there's no car manufacturer. The whole continent depends on food from abroad to a large extent.
Despite it is third of the Arab land. I said despite having the 2/3 of the arable land in the world.
In the world. So there's a system in place that Africa should just consume and not produce, because it is where the production is happening, that's where the jobs are. Not even where the resources are, it's where the factories are.
It's where the factories.
So the West would not want that to change. So for a country and a president to try to change that economic system is very, very difficult. I'm not saying it's impossible.
It has
as we see in Burkina Faso.
Bold step. You have that person has to be able to make a bold step.
And that's why democracy in its current form may not make that happen. Because those bold steps, some of them have to be autocratic. Like we see in Burkina Faso, like we see in China, where they don't practice democracy, where things get done fast. Because in China, the focus is not it's nothing more than to catch up with the West. And to catch up with the West, you have to do things that are autocratic. You have to do things that not everybody needs to agree, but they have to be done. No, we're trying to catch up. We may not have the luxury of carrying everybody along. When we get there, you will see it. And this very important African scholar, Nombisa Moyo, she wrote a book about why AIDS is dead. Some of the arguments is that Africa needs some form of autocratic system to move the continent forward.
Well, I think for me, I don't really think autocracy is necessarily the solution, because whichever way you want to look at styles of leadership, the problem usually is not with the style. The problem always is with the players, the people who are embodying that style of leadership.
Yeah.
Just like you rightly pointed out, in China, you can see some forms of autocracy, but with results.
Yes.
In Nigeria, we've had autocratic leader.
Yes.
Never worked.
Yes, absolutely.
In countries like Dubai, you see monarchy with a blend of autocracy.
Yeah.
Is working.
Yes.
But in Africa, which was largely monarchical before the colonial master came, we even saw the role that the monarchy played in the slave trade. Most people are not even talking about that.
Yeah.
They are not talking about the role that the monarchy in Africa played in the slave trade. So sometimes it's not usually whether it is this form of government or this type of leadership that is the best. It is who is embodying that style of leadership.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
What makes the difference.
That's absolutely true.
So whether an autocratic leader that is benevolent or a democratic leader that has a twist of an autocracy, it all boils down to who is calling the shots.
If I add to what you're saying, South Korea too has a very similar history with Nigeria.
Yeah, exactly.
After they separated from North Korea, they went through long periods of military rule.
Yeah.
Although they don't like talking about their military past, but everything that they are today started during the military regime. It was the military guys that laid the foundation for industrialization. They were the ones that said, no, we have to produce ourselves. We're not going to depend on others. So the car manufacturing industry, the shipping industry, the technology industry, all the foundation, the education industry in South Korea was laid during the military regime. So I agree with you that, and I think it boils down to what we've been saying, that leadership is the mindset.
Yes, sir.
Whether you are in military uniform or you are in civilian uniform, whether it's called democracy or autocracy or a blend of the two, it's this set of people who sit and occupy that space.
Exactly, which comes to what Socrates, Plato are always talking about a leader being virtuous. When a leader is virtuous, it doesn't matter whether it is a military guy or a monarchy or a democratic president or representative. If the person who is leading the society has some virtues, some enviable virtues, it will definitely reflect on the way the society will be governed.
Yeah.
Take even the monarchical system that we have in Africa. Take it for instance. Now, if you look at some of the earliest movies that were staged in the 80s, early 80s, late 80s, and maybe part of early 90s. I'm not talking about the kind of movie they are producing now in Nigeria. I'm talking about those movies. I'm sure you must have watched one or two of them.
Yeah.
You see the way the kings makes decision. It doesn't just order things just like that. It will consult A, consult B, consult C, and then bring their contribution together, and then and then be able to present based on what he has had. Then he will have enough wisdom to be able to say, I think this is what we should do. And then they will all agree.
Yes.
That this is what we should. That tells you that that is what monarchy is all about. It's not just one man calling the shots.
Yes.
It's a participatory style of leadership.
Yes.
Participatory, it is consultative.
Yes.
And I think these are some of the things that we need to look at in Africa to be able to reinvent our style of government to become something that is compatible with who we are.
I agree, 100%. 100%.
You made a mention. You made a mention of education being very fundamental.
Yes.
To how the citizen, how they are able to participate in the government, in the governance of the society.
Yes.
Which dives into the next question that I have. Now, we all know the importance of education. Without an enlightened citizen, there is no way you can have a functional society.
Yes, that's so true.
If the masses are not educated, I'm not just talking about going to school, going to universities. That's not the kind of education, because we have seen a lot of graduates who are still behaving like illiterate. So that's not the kind of education that I'm talking about. But I know you know the type of education that I'm referring to. Now, my question is, because I think Karl Marx also made a similar statement where he says the ruling class fears education because it makes obedience to be impossible. Now, if education is so powerful and is so crucial, is so critical to the evolution of good governance in the African society, my question is, what leverage then does it give the masses in making political leaders to be accountable to them?
Wow, that's very deep. That's very deep. And there are several layers to it. Education is under attack from two main forces. And the attack is relentless. The outcome of this attack will create a passive, illiterate, subservient population that will enable the very few elites to continue to impoverish, to continue to amass wealth. Sometimes I compare it to how Satan functions. Satan functions in such a way that he gives a few people power and authority, and he wants them to use that power and authority to suppress the majority. So the first thing that is affecting education today, especially in the African context, is poverty.
Poverty.
Poverty is destroying the fabric of African society. There's a proverb, the Nigerian proverb, Yoruba proverb, that ọmọ yín ò ṣàgbàfọ̀, ó ń kó aṣọ wálé. For those who don't understand that Yoruba language, it simply means that your son is not into the laundry business. But every night he brings a pile of clothes home. Where is he getting it from? Where the poverty is so bad in many African countries that basic moral education has been trampled underfoot. You know, basic religious education has been disregarded. We just want to eat something, we're starving. What is fornication or adultery? What does don't steal mean? When I'm desperate, I will sell my body, sell anything, kill anyone just to put food on my table because I'm hungry. Because real education thrives in spaces where there is some basic comfort of life. At least what to eat to survive is not the problem. You know, you can imagine the number of thousands of people, Northern Nigeria as an example, Magiri, where millions of young boys can't be in school. They just roam around the streets begging for alms. You can imagine the number of people that have dropped out of school because there's no financial supply, no financial resources.
Now, Victor, just to get into that space where you've gone now, you know, before now, I used to imagine that the problem in the North was because of Islam. I used to believe that Islam was the reason for the wretchedness and the level of poverty that we're witnessing in the northern part of Nigeria. But after I personally went through Dubai myself and I saw an Islamic nation, and I saw what they were able to do in an Islamic nation, then I knew that it wasn't Islam that was the problem. It was some people somewhere deliberately keeping the people in poverty using religion as a cover-up.
I totally agree with you.
To buttress what you were trying to...
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I've done some study too where I compared Islam in Turkey and the way they embrace Western education, and Islam in Nigeria, the way they reject Western education. You know, Boko Haram means no to Western education.
No to Western education,
Whereas in Turkey, a Muslim nation as well, the way they embrace Western education. And just like Christianity, religion, Islam takes a certain form,
a cultural
in
form,
certain contexts.
Cultural form.
The cultural form that Islam has taken in northern Nigeria is non-progressive, and it is in the interest of their ruling class to use religion to suppress the masses.
Exactly.
They use religion to say, don't question your leaders. Whatever you go through in life is your portion. You don't need Western education. You don't need education. And hate everybody that is not a Christian, that is not a Muslim. So they've turned religion into an ideology to oppress the masses. So poverty is a significant problem. If you look at most countries and the way they've developed, the more economically prosperous a country becomes, the less dependent on religion they be. Someone did a study in the United States. Before COVID, fewer Americans regarded church and God serious. Why? Because what they called God for, government was able to provide. Someone said to me that in Europe, you don't say the Lord's Prayer, like our Father who art in heaven, give us our daily bread, because the daily bread is already there. You don't need God to give you daily bread. But that guy is a religious scholar. He said during the pandemic and after the pandemic, more people turned to God than before the pandemic, because we all need to cling on to something, whether it's God or government. And that's really important. So in northern Nigeria, poverty and religion are used as tools to keep people down. More resources from the federal government goes to the north, because federal allocation is based on the number of local governments you have. There are more local governments in Kano than in Lagos, whereas the population of Lagos is more than the one in Kano. There are more local governments in the north compared to the south. Yet there's more poverty in the north than the south. Where's the money going? Into the pockets of a few who use religion to make the people docile. So, but back to the point I'm making, that there are two major forces attacking education. Number one is poverty, and poverty is affecting family values. Poverty is affecting religious education, civic education, social education, things that you don't need a degree in, but there are things you need to know about how to function in a society. You know, value for hard work, respect for your neighbors, integrity, honesty, all this basic stuff that you don't need a degree in, that forms the backbone. The kind of education you were talking about, that it doesn't have to have a degree, but you need them to function as a human being. So that's been attacked by poverty. The second thing that's attacking education is neoliberalism. That simply means that education, or the courses we do in universities today, are looked at from an economic point of view. You are going to do philosophy in a university? Philosophy?
Philosophy? How much would that pay for you?
Well, where will you get a job? So they're looking at liberal arts, looking at humanities as less important.
You know, when I wanted to study business administration at Olabisi Onabanjo University, I had one of my aunties say to me that, why do you want to study business administration? That you don't really need to go to university to study that. And I understand what she was saying, that because back then all you need to do to climb to become a manager is to start from maybe to start as a clerk, and then you work your way
up.
So that was the mindset that she had, that you don't have to go to school to learn to do that, when you can just walk into a company and then move through the hierarchy to become a manager, a branch manager, or whatever you want to become. So I was just trying to put that to corroborate.
Which is true. They don't even call it business administration. Business admin. Want to go and study business admin? So in today's world, especially in Western societies, and it's happening in Africa now, that there's little value on the kind of education that makes you think, that makes you question things, that makes you challenge. The kind of education that is popular today is IT.
Because that's where money is now.
Money is there. But those who do IT, who do finance, who do wealth management, they don't have the skill set to look at the philosophy of society, to look at the politics of society, to evaluate human relations within society and say, no, this is not right. Like today, you've quoted Plato, you've talked about Socrates, you've talked about, that is not from IT.
Yeah.
I'm not saying IT is not valuable, But what is happening today is that neoliberalism is devaluing some particular courses and disciplines, especially disciplines in the social sciences and humanities, that makes you think philosophically and politically and challenge. If I want to go and study political science, for what?
You want to become a politician?
Well, you want to go and study history. History. Who will give you a job to do what? Whereas you need to know about the past
Exactly.
in order to understand today and to redesign or remodel tomorrow.
Mm.
So as these courses are being devalued, with a lot of focus on science, and I know science is important, on technology important. So what the kind of society we might become is that there will be very few people that can question, that can challenge. So poverty is doing its damage. The focus on economics of the course you study, how you can get a job, and is very important. It creates a vacuum. So when we now talk about civil engagement, civil society, talking intellectually or academically, there's going to be a vacuum. There's going to be a vacuum.
Is there any way we can demand for it? Because we know that this is the gateway to many of the things we are talking about. Is there any practical way we can, as a society, demand that the masses are, at least on the average, are enlightened enough to be able to make decisions that will benefit the common good?
That's the relevance of what you are doing, of awareness, of speaking out, because even like you rightly said, even if it's just one person you are able to empower,
Exactly.
one person can empower another person. And when we now begin to collectively shout about it, that's when we can hold back the hands of those in government. That's when we can elect the right people in the right places to make the right decision. Because politicians come and go, but society remains. Trump is going to come and go. Tinubu will come and go.
Exactly.
But society is left to pick up whether they've done well or they've done bad. So that civil society engagement. And when we talk about civil society engagement, we're not talking about the whole population rising up to do anything. The leadership factor comes in play too. There are opinion leaders.
Your leaders, yeah.
Yeah, there are activists. There are people who start something and the rest of society will catch up with them and they form a revolution. Like right said, not a violent revolution, but an intellectual revolution. A call for change, demonstrations that makes things happen. So the onus is on us, opinion leaders, academics, scholars, intellectuals, civil society, to not fold in, to keep talking, to keep engaging, to keep researching, to keep calling the awareness and the attention of the rest of society to important things happening to our elections. One of the things I've been looking at recently is like I've been looking at Nigerian elections and elections generally across the continent. That how can we make that selection process more credible? Why is it the case that we only talk about INEC every 4 years? What happens in between those years? Everybody's passive.
Everybody is passive, yeah.
Yeah, the institutional problems of INEC still exist. The president continues to appoint INEC chairmen. And you can't bite the fingers that feed you. Can we find a way where all parties will collectively appoint somebody as the INEC chairman? What is the selection criteria for the INEC chairman? Or is it just somebody who can do a yes man? And the electoral commissioners also, the state rectors and the state commissioners. Okay, let's talk about our voter registration. Do we have a live register? Do they remove the names of those who are dead? Are people who are 18 captured, or is it just at the start of every 4 years, just before election, another voters registration card? What about civil society education
Yes, it has to be
to be
continuous
continuous?
registration. Yeah.
That is our duty. I remember when we were growing up, schools had civil education when they told us about voting, your rights as a citizen, your duties and your responsibilities as a citizen, what it means to be a citizen, community, collective thinking. What happened to that? Why are those things not funded anymore? What about political parties? Why is it that some parties, to pick up a nomination form, you have to be a billionaire? The money is so high. In so doing, they are letting people who don't have money, who are young with brilliant ideas, they are cutting them off,
Mm,
and it's deliberate.
mm,
So why is INEC not monitoring the party finance? Who is giving political parties money? For what purpose? Are they giving them money so that when they get into government, they can do what they want, godfatherism? Are we money? So, you know, society can't do things to shape politics because politicians are there to serve civil society. I understand the place of entrepreneurship, private education, but some things are easier done at the collective national or state level. And that's why government politics is very important. The resources of the state is very important. The decisions they make is very key. And one of the things that we can do is to look closely at the selection process or the election process and make it stronger, make it better. It took, I think, the first constitution of the United States, after 10 years, was cancelled
mm.
before the current constitution. And those 10 years, it was like a trial. Let's add this, let's take this away. And then, no, 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 let's press the reset button to something that is stronger, something that is better. So, yeah, there's nothing wrong as a nation if you're still learning, making mistakes, correcting ourselves, refining our democracy, redefining it. But it's important for civil society, I mean, the intelligent, educated, articulate, those who do research, those who see, to keep on making the points, to keep on talking. Like a doctor will wake up today and go to the hospital to treat people. A plumber would do the same, go to his job. But there are some people's job is to sit down, critically think, and reflect. The academics, the thinkers, and even religious people, the pastors who call the conscience of the nation, who are responsible to train people, young people, youths, about marriages, about integrity, about love. I think you mentioned a very important point at the start. Love, the love factor.
Yeah.
That if you love the people, if you love your family, you abandon.
Power to get things done.
Yeah, if you love your country like the Chinese are doing, you can see the passion of the Chinese.
So much, so
They
powerful.
love their country. They don't want to be a second fiddle. And you see them, in the interest of the states.
Yeah.
But if you get to Africa, it's different.
Mm.
It's different. They don't. When I left the airport, my recent visit to Lagos, and after about half an hour driving on very bad roads, the first thing I said is, why are they making Nigerians suffer?
Mm.
Why are they making them suffer?
Mm.
The roads are in a very bad state, and I'm talking about Lagos State.
I know. I know.
Why are they making them suffer? And the people are so used to badness,
Yeah.
they don't even know what goodness looks like. Like you rightly said one time that a typical African is so deep in badness that they don't even know what a good leader is. You ask an African person who is a leader, they say he has to be strong, no nonsense man.
No nonsense, man. And they also always see a leader as somebody who is stupendously rich.
Yeah,
To be rich.
because he's rich, he won't steal money. Who told you that? Because he's rich, he has our interests at start. Some of them are rich, they don't even know what it means to be poor. They can't even make policies that are in the interest of poor people.
Yeah.
They don't know it. They've not tasted it for a long time. They've forgotten.
Exactly.
The roads are bad.
Mm.
I'm like, why?
Now let me ask you, we are moving away into something that I consider to be my own passion. I hope I will see how that will play out in the nearest future. Now, we all know the role that people in diaspora, we know the role they can play. We know that the diaspora, Africans in diaspora, has a major role to play in the political, economic, and cultural development or involvement of Africa. Now, this is not a rocket science. Number one, we've seen how that even played out in the Bible when the Israelites were in exile. We saw the role Nehemiah and Ezra played in mobilizing the diaspora to rebuild Jerusalem. And now, to let you know that this is not just something that happened by chance, we saw it in the historical Israel. Now, in Israel as a recognized state by the UN now, we also saw how the diaspora mobilized themselves to ensure that Israel became a recognized nation, not only recognized, we saw what they have done since 1948, or I think it was 1948, they became a recognized nation.
Yeah, that's true.
You can see what they've done over the period of years in the evolution of Israel as a nation. Now, come to China also. You know, when China decided, initially, they first of all locked themselves in to ask themselves question, what is really unique about us? Now, after understanding what is unique about them, what they need to move from where they are to where they need to be. Now, what they began to do was to begin to send people out to go and study in Harvard, study in Yale, study in Brown University, study in MIT. Those ones went and gathered all the knowledge and then mobilize them to come and build a society. And we can all see what China has become today. So I just want to ask you, what role do you think that the Africans in diaspora can significantly play in the development of the African society?
That's also very, very deep question. And as we both Africans in diaspora, um, we both send money, financial remittance home.
Every now and then.
Every now and then, some by choice, others
Yeah,
by force.
exactly.
Some we do it voluntarily, others they hold us at gunpoint. That if you don't send it now, somebody is going to. And we thank God that at least God has positioned us in a place where we are the givers, we're not the receivers. To God be the glory. So that's ongoing. I can't speak of Africa generally, but I think in most African countries now, a lot of people are going back to invest at home,
Mm,
to become part of the private sector.
mm,
We've lived abroad, we've seen the world, we're educated, we've equipped ourselves, we have some capital,
mm,
20 years abroad, 15 years abroad, we have ideas, we want to go back. So that a lot of that is happening. People are buying properties, and it has ignited the property market.
mm.
People are going back to set up businesses. And in doing so, when you succeed, you show other businesses a pattern. People learn from you. You form an ecology, which is all good. I think the area that is educationally also, there are a lot of scholarships going back and forth. People are funding others to come study abroad. Universities are starting partnerships with other universities, which is always culturally. The movie industry is also benefiting from it. Access to more technology. The music industry in Nigeria, for example, is global, and they enjoy a lot of synergy.
Well, I don't think there is any country that can rival Nigerian music now.
Nigerian music is a big business.
I don't think there is any
It's
country.
capital oriented. It's global. It's serious. Nigerians partnering with
It's
Americans.
gospel and secular music. I think
Yeah,
up there.
yeah. But the area that the breakthrough is yet to fully happen is the field of politics.
Yeah.
That's one of the very difficult areas to penetrate. Not because of a lack of. I think Obasanjo tried it when he brought in experts into his government and administration. And they did do some stuff, in fairness to them. And I'm not saying the current government or Buhari's government did not try. They used experts. But the big challenge, yeah,
We are now in Tinubu's government.
yeah, Tinubu to Buhari to Jonathan Goodluck, to a different level. They
Yeah.
all involve people from abroad or people who have foreign education, who are exposed. But I think the politics of Nigeria and across Africa is still at a stage where you can't beat them, you have to join them.
Mm.
And that tells you of the cultural setting in which the politics sits.
Mm.
We've seen brilliant young people who have gone into government, Tinubu's government, to steal money, who have gone into government to become part of the system. The system is very strong, that to break it and to break it down or to even revolutionize it or change it, transform it, it's very, very challenging. I'm not saying there are no changes. I went to Oshodi and wow, this is Oshodi. This is not the Oshodi I used to know. It has changed. It has improved. It's better. The changes are happening, but the pace is slow. And the pace is frustrating. Yeah, it's sometimes somebody have argued that it is unfair to expect that in 10 years Africa is going to transform or Nigeria is going to become Europe or under two administrations. It takes a longer period. Europe got to where they are after over 300 years and it's still transforming. China, maybe the last 50 years, but 50 years is a long period when they got it right. So that's one argument to decide that it's going to take a while. But the penetration will continue when we keep, sharing best practice. We keep our voices up. I remember back in the day, the Awolowo's, the Nnamdi Azikiwe, all of them studied abroad. But they didn't stay abroad forever. They went back home and began to, raise awareness.
The course was clear. They could see that there is vast opportunity
Yeah.
back home. So many of them migrated back to
home. Yeah, the idea to stay abroad for a long time was not even there. And the system was still open.
Yeah.
The system was still negotiable. You could still kind of meander and maneuver your way. But now, good ideas are not enough. I'm not saying Peter Obi is it's not a corrupt politician like all politicians are across the world. He's not a saint. But even with his brilliant ideas to break down the Nigerian political system was a challenge in 2023. You need modern ideas. You need modern people who are from abroad with brilliance. You need modern ideology. You need people on ground. Somebody was breaking it down to me, said, sorry?
Grassroots.
Yeah. The person was talking about grassroots, that the reason Labour Party lost the election was because they didn't have a grassroots.
Particularly in the northern part of Nigeria.
The northern, even in the south, they didn't have, as I said, what does it mean by grassroots? He said grassroots means that people at the ward level, ward by ward, that they will stay there during the election.
So that is where our current president, Tinubu, is the master.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes he looks like an evil genius.
Yeah.
if it's like you said in one of the interviews we did in the past, that he's not using his intelligence and the people around him in
Exactly.
the interest of the nation.
Yeah.
He's
I
doing it in the
believe the
interest of
man is
himself and his
very
party.
sincere, but I would have wished that he's truly very sincere and very passionate about Nigeria as a nation and Nigerians as a people. But for me, I don't think he's doing that enough.
Yeah, he's had 2 years now.
In my own heart,
Yeah.
obviously he has won some people's heart, but he hasn't done enough to win my own heart, because I could see that many of the things he's doing are just calculations they are just strategies. They are not yet something that will impact the flourishing of Nigeria as a society.
Yeah, I agree with you. Awolowo never became the president of Nigeria.
Yeah, yeah.
Was the premier of the Western region for a certain number of years, but we still remember him fondly today.
Exactly.
And part of the reason was because of his massive
Yeah,
empowerment programs, free
exactly.
education,
His
first television station in Africa,
his large-heartedness can
his
never.
ideology,
Yes.
his interests.
Yeah.
This current government, I don't see that.
Yeah.
I don't see policies that are in the interest of Nigerians.
Yeah.
The policy and his attention is towards Nigeria as an entity, but there's no trickle down.
Yeah.
They often say that if you are in a plane and the plane rises up to a certain level, you are already in the plane, you are rising up to that level. But in the Nigerian context, money is coming in, but the money is disappearing. It's not translating to projects.
Yeah.
Like Bishop Oyedepo said, budget without project in the Nigerian context. You can't trace a budget allocation to a project that was delivered. And that's what makes it very difficult. I won't say that Tinubu is responsible for everything.
Yeah,
He's
definitely.
not controlling local governments, he's not controlling the states. But sometimes my analysis of Nigeria is that the political class, they set the pace for the rest of society to follow.
Exactly.
And the reason why I said that is that what the political class do is that they use the office of the state to enrich themselves. That's the pattern. Get into government at all costs and use the office to enrich yourself. A policeman
and to perpetuate yourself.
A policeman wears that uniform, not in the interest of Nigeria or interest of society, but to enrich himself. A primary school teacher goes there to teach, but sometimes, more often than not, they use the time meant for teaching to do business, to steal things belonging to the school. So the Nigerian psyche now is that anybody that gets a chance in any position, use it for your own interest. And that's what the message is from the top. And it's trickling down to the bottom. So any office you are in, rather than move the file from office A to office B, you keep it under your table until they give you money, you will move it. They come to your office, they want to do passport, international passport, it costs X amount of money. Rather than do it, you find a way to put PR so that you can get X amount of money extra. But it runs from the top. So back to the main question, what we should do is what we are doing. Just continue to raise our voices, continue to empower people, not just by talk. I met a professor from the United States. I think he's from Cornell. He's a Tanzanian. And he said that what he does at his own small capacity is that leftover laptops from Cornell, he takes it to his country. If there's scholarship, he throws the opportunity to his people. By doing that, he got the attention of the vice chancellor of the university. He got the attention of the minister for education. He got the attention of the president. That in his own small way, that's his own contribution. So we can do something by empowering people, not just by podcasts or printing magazines or writing articles or writing paper, by also providing jobs, by connecting people to things that can lift them from poverty. And hopefully, the next continent to develop will be Africa.
Now, Victor, I have just 3 more questions to ask.
Okay.
And these questions are about you. I read some of your articles on LinkedIn on democracy and, of course, on political development in Africa. In one of your articles, you raise a concern where I think the title of the article itself was Democracy Without Development. And you ask a question, is it temporal or eternal? Now, I want to ask you, what is your own opinion about democracy and development in Africa? Do you think the democracy we are witnessing, without much to show for it, do you think it is temporal, or do you think we are doomed?
It's the easy answer is democracy without development will lead to destruction. Because the essence of democracy is development.
The development.
If the means does not justify the end, then the means is not fit for purpose. If democracy is unable to give us what we want, then what's the purpose? What's the use? Like they did in Burkina Faso. So everybody was rejoicing.
Which means if the lack of development, if it continues,
democracy is at risk.
A time will come when there will be a revolt.
Yeah, because
time.
I've voted in the last how many years, but my situation has not changed. There's still inequality, there's still poverty. Opportunities still go to the rich and the mighty. Like Karl Marx said, when the poor people revolt, what are they going to lose other than their chains?
Nothing. They've already lost everything already.
They don't have anything to lose. And that's why in Europe and in other continents, there's social welfare. The rich people are thinking, let's not push these people to the point of revolution because we are the ones that will lose. Let's give them something. And that's why the politics is politics of performance to keep people going. Happy. It's not enough. It's not like everything, but at least you won't become desperate, too desperate. Yeah, so except it is a democracy that is showing positive progression, that the result is not all there, but we are seeing green shoots, there's fruits, especially when it comes to jobs and infrastructure. If people keep seeing that, there's hope. But in a place where it's just a desperate space, it's difficult. Although God is the one that has the final say. So academic projections or research may give answers, but it doesn't give all the answers. So for example, my visit to Nigeria, one of the things I observed, which is very interesting, is that the poverty and the failure of the government is making people more creative. You know, like they say in Yoruba that ìyà ò jẹ olóògbọ́n. For those who don't understand, I simply say that intelligence sometimes is not something that comes when you are at ease. Intelligence sometimes comes during difficult times. So difficulty also makes people less wasteful, more critical, more creative. You know, when you are pushed to the wall, you fight back. I've seen a lot of graduates go back to their dad's old business. I've seen people with degrees go into all manner of, because they've come to a point that I have to survive. And in so doing, they have blossomed, although in a very difficult context. And also, comfort makes people become lazy. Europe has become stagnant now for the last 10 years. The rise of China, Southeast Asians, America, Europe that used to be number 2 have been pushed back and back and back. And the reason is because too many regulations, too many comfort. You can afford, in some European countries, you can afford not to work for the rest of your life. And you live in a decent house, have 3 square meals, have a car or 2, and live very comfortably without a job. Although it's meant to make life easy, but when a people become too comfortable, that can be a problem. So yeah, I'm not a prophet of doom, and I'm hopeful that things will change. But it pushes democracy to a point that those who benefit from it, they must make it work. So that, because they have all to lose.
Yeah.
They have all to lose. So that's the key question. But many times, some people don't even see the future. They keep amassing wealth with the belief that if anything happens, all my money is in Switzerland.
I'll be okay.
I'm out.
Yeah, well, they don't even go to Switzerland now. They go to these very funny countries like Malta or
countries that sell their visa. They sell their citizenships.
Now, let me ask you another question based on one of your articles that I also read. You also raised a concern, and I know we've touched some of that in this podcast, both now and in the previous one we had, where you asked, is the problem the game, which is the democracy as a game, or the player, which in this context, the Africans? Now, do you think there is a straightforward answer to this? Is it the democracy, the player, the game, or the player, the Africans? What do you think?
I think it's a combination of the two. Because if you take the game, democracy itself, number one, it was handed over to us. It didn't evolve within our society as a way to say, collectively, let's all sit down and have a discussion. What do we want? Where are we going?
Our leaders have been avoiding that. Do you notice that? They've been
National Constitutional Conference.
Yeah, they've been avoiding it.
Yeah, they run, like you quoted Marx, that the rich and powerful are afraid of uneducated masses. They don't want a station where people will now think together and then say, no. Hausa man is not my problem. Yoruba man is not my problem. It is poverty that is my problem.
For example, I used to wonder, where did we come to a point that the rotational system that we practice in Nigeria has to be between North and South alone?
It came about in 1999.
Yeah, I know, but that is not a fair way to rotate the presidency. Because those of us in the South, Yoruba and Igbo, we are not the same.
But in the North too, they're not the same, so to say.
They are not the same. So if at all we even want to practice rotational government at all, I would have suggested that we should use the geopolitical zones rather than just say it is between North and South and the West. Because you always know that it is the Fulani that will always edge them in the North. But in the South, it's always a battle
between Igbos and Yorubas.
And this is where the lifeline of Nigeria is. And we are always at the loggerhead of trying to struggle who comes first, who comes second. Why the ones that are just benefiting the resources are just living large.
Yeah, they're using it as
to decide.
They're using it as a distraction.
Yeah.
a distraction that it's about Hausa, it's about Yoruba. You know, even if you look at Nigeria's political parties and their election manifesto,
Mm.
they have something they call election manifesto.
Yeah.
That this is what we're going to do when we get there.
Mm.
But it's only on paper.
It's only on paper.
Elections are not decided on manifestos. It's decided
Yeah.
on where you're from.
They trade after the election is won, it's thrown into the garbage.
Yeah, like now they said that Obi is a good idea to be a president. Rather than have Tinubu for another 4 years, we want to have Obi, something like that. But the problem is that if Obi gets there, he will want to spend 8 years.
Yeah, because it's his constitutional right.
But Tinubu has spent 4 years. So the South only has 4 more years to spend. Power needs to come back to the North.
I know that's the strategy they are trying to put in place.
Yeah.
But it's going to be tough.
So my analysis of the discussions in the Nigerian political space, the least talked about are the people for whom government exists.
Yeah. How
The
does
real,
it benefit the people?
yeah, the real discussion is about who.
How do we elevate the people? How do we make
That's not part of the discussion. They don't talk about homelessness.
life
They don't talk about,
comfortable for the people?
they don't talk about infrastructure. They don't talk about all of that. What they often and always talk about is who is the godfather, which group does this guy represent, where is he from, how much is he worth.
Mm.
That's what they use to determine who is next,
Mm.
not the ideas about eliminating poverty, building social housing, constructing roads, electricity, nothing. The people are the least talked about. They are not even part of the consideration. In fact, that's why sometimes election doesn't even count. Because once they've made those decisions, the big people at the top, everything else has to follow a line. They say this 2023 election was the least attended by the people.
Mm.
People are not interested in election, in voting.
Mm.
But the people that are, some of them that were elected, that were interested, thugs chased them back.
Mm.
I followed Lagos state politics a little bit. MC Oluomo made a public threat that Yashukudi, yeah, if we see your leg for Lagos to come and vote for. 2 days later, the police commissioner for Lagos said he's only joking. So the police,
And he also came out himself to say it was his neighbor Yachukudi that he was actually referring to.
so the police making excuse for thugs. Why? Because they all belong and operate under the same system.
Yeah.
Which is a tragedy. Yeah, but we have to keep hoping.
Yeah.
We have to keep hoping.
I know we have to stop at some point.
Yeah.
Almost getting there. I just want to ask you this question. It's more or less like me wanting to see how Victor Jatula, how do you function when you are by yourself? I know you've been an incredible leader. I've always respected you.
I don't know about incredible.
You are, you know, I've known you for close to 30 years, so I can, if I say you are credible, I know exactly what I'm talking about. And you've been an inspiration to me.
Thank
Although
you, thank you
sometimes
so much.
we may not agree on some areas, but that is normal. But
That's life.
I've always believed in you, and I've always respected what you have stood for over the years. I just want to ask you, how do you practice self-reflection?
How do I?
Practice self-reflection.
That's a tough one. Very tough. I listen to a lot of people too. I think the one voice I've listened to more in my life than any other voice and you agree with me, is Bishop David Oyedepo.
Yeah.
From the ministry and his messages, his teaching shaped us significantly all through college.
There is no doubt about that.
All through college. I said I've listened to him more than my dad. I'm just being sincere.
There is no doubt about that. He has shaped a lot of us.
Yeah, it's a generational blessing. So I listen to that a lot. And I think one thing that really drives me is the passion for people. That's my number one motivating factor. You know, when I see poor people, sometimes I cry. You know, even coming to Europe, the way blacks are treated in Europe, I cry. I shed tears and like only if where we're coming from is developed. We don't have to struggle as second-class citizens in the world. I go back to Nigeria and I look at people. You know, sometimes you're driving. My daughter went to Nigeria for the first time in the last 18 years or 19 years. The last time she was there, she was maybe age 7 or 8. And then she went back and she said, Dad, one of the culture shock for me is that I see a lot of people on the street just hawking, just walking aimlessly. Some are begging that the car very young as 10, 12. Why? Say I see sewages, gutter. In my head, I'm like, that's where we play when we're growing up.
Oh my God.
Because she's comparing that world with this world.
Yeah.
An orderly world with a disorderly world. A rich world with a poor world. That's why I went to do masters. That's why I went to do a PhD. That's why I write. That's why I wake up every day. We started a church. I'm sure you know about it. We left Winners Chapel in 2023, December. We started a church early 2024. And the main mantra of the church is restoration to, lift people out of misery and poverty and all that. And I think that's the only thing that drives me. So even because if one is talking about personal comfort, all of us, we have almost get to that space where it's not what to eat or what to wear or the kind of car to drive at our level that's a burden anymore. Yeah, God has helped us to overcome all of that. But, and it draws back to what you said at the start, which I really love, the love factor. That when you love something, the push to make that thing change, to see improvement in that thing, and then the concern is my driving force. Oh, sorry, I pressed something. It's my driving force. It's my motivation. It's what shapes when sometimes I can wake up at 1 o'clock and start typing or start reading. Especially when I see maybe images of poverty in Africa or people struggling or people begging, just made me wake up. There's more work to be done, There's more impact. I want to go back into magazine publishing from next month after stopping because of the church. I couldn't combine the two. The church.
Yeah, I'm also hoping that maybe you will need to move away from the format that you were doing and
Okay, I'm open to ideas.
make it more like something that can be archived.
Okay.
You make it into something that you blog.
Okay. So I can have like a digital archive, people can go back and
so that instead of having it as a magazine, you have it in form of a blog.
Okay.
People that can be there for generations to come.
Okay, that's brilliant.
That was what I did with Africana Leadership Digest, and it's the readership is growing, the impact is growing. Unlike the magazine format that you have currently, after this edition, people will rarely visit it again. But if you have it in form of a blog that is archived, it can always be revisited, and then the readership can also keep growing.
Okay. Yeah, I take that on board.
That would be.
I will go back to
yeah.
I'll go back to African leadership and see.
Yeah.
And I'll reach out.
Yeah.
I know I'm going to need help.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be willing to help. And I'm also thinking that it will be a nice idea for you to also have a podcast where you can really share I know you have a lot to offer when it comes to democracy.
Thank you so much.
And leadership development in Africa.
Thank you so much. I'm passionate about Africa, and I appreciate this platform to share some of the ideas I have. You're somebody that, you know,
they have more of it.
Definitely. Yeah, you're somebody I really respect and admire as well. Although from afar recently, but I know well back in Nagoya, you've always stood as a man of integrity, a man that is determined. I remember your time with Pastor Iladu of blessed memory.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really worked hard.
The man gave me the platform.
Yeah, when it came in, this is my thinking. I could be wrong. When it came in, prior to his time was Pastor Adebusola's time.
Yeah.
And Pastor Adebusola and I, we run deep.
Yeah.
And he gave us some amazing opportunities.
Yeah.
But when Pastor Ilado came, he didn't like that. He was a more structured man. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
He was a more formal, structured man.
Yeah.
So the unstructured system that was there before, he just like, no, I'm not going to take this rubbish. We can do it better. And the two of us didn't really, not that we had any issue.
Yeah.
But there are some differences.
I think for me, both of them are very important to me because without Pastor Adebusola laying the foundation, for which allowed many of us to begin to develop and to grow, I don't think Pastor Elijah would have met anything that.
So true.
It's
so true.
So for me, they both hold a very special place in my heart. But I will definitely say that the platform that I'm operating today was given to me by Pastor Elijah.
Yeah, the two of you are really, you worked very closely. Yeah, I hold him in high esteem. You need structure in your life, and he provided that. He brought in that system of let's do things in a more organized, systemic way that guaranteed results. He was very time conscious and had little patience for indiscipline or laissez-faire attitude, which is brilliant, which is lovely. Yeah, God really helped us in that space. Sometimes when recently our department set up a WhatsApp group. Those of us that graduated the same year, the same department, that were together for 4 years.
Olabisi.
Yeah, history department, Olabisi, history and diplomatic studies. I remember Winners Chapel Galway more than them.
I said it. My short video that I sent during Pastor Adebusola's retirement service.
Oh, retirement, okay.
I said for me, the only university that I recognized was the Winners Chapel Galway. That was the university that I went to.
So true.
I'm telling you, that was where I was schooled.
Yeah, that's true.
And this is the truth.
That's true.
Not about the truth. This is where I was trained and schooled. And
all of us are still doing great things. I reconnected with Kule Ajibola.
Yeah.
Well, he lived in Dublin for a while. He moved back to the UK. He's doing amazing stuff too. Shewa.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've become even closer now. Yeah. Because she lectures in, I think, Birmingham.
Okay.
University of Birmingham. Yeah.
So I know a lot of us are doing well. That is to let you know that that place was indeed.
Yeah.
Citadel learning. Yeah.
God helped us. God sent people to our way that shaped our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like, yeah, you're right. It was our university.
Yeah, it was. For me, that was what it was for me.
I'm like, me and this person were in the same university for 4 years. I don't even remember. But I remember everything that happened. But I can't Agbaje and a lot of people that he works at the University of Ibadan.
Yes,
Yeah.
I connected with him a few times before.
Okay. We went to, we got married in Ibadan. We went to Winner Chapel Ibadan. So we saw him as the interpreter. So after service, we met him with his wife.
Okay.
And it's not Sister Bumi. So
I know, yeah.
it is well. It is well.
All right, I think we have
I'm
to,
sure your son is going to edit all of this part out.
well, we'll try our best, but at the same time, we also want to keep it as real as possible.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
It's,
The podcast idea is not a bad idea. I'm going to look into it.
Yeah.
Look into it.
So I'm so glad to connect with you, sir.
The pleasure is all mine. In fact, I'm glad if there's a word like that.
And I know definitely we will continue to have this type of conversation.
Amen. Amen. Our paths will cross and we'll do more together. Not just podcasts, maybe some conference in Africa.
Definitely.
Some talk show, some TV program in Africa.
Exactly.
God will give us the grace.
All right. My best regard to your family.
Will do.
All the students in your campus.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. My greetings to the ministry, and then have a wonderful service tomorrow.
All right. And you too, sir.
Okay. Bye, sir.
Yes, sir.